A chance encounter. Max's footsteps echoed through the gleaming corridors of the galactic dream, a luxurious cruise liner sailing through the vast expanse of space. He pushed his cleaning cart along, the gentle hum of the ship's engines a constant backdrop to his monotonous routine. The ship, a marvel of engineering, was a playground for the wealthy, transporting them between exotic planets. But to Max, it felt more like a prison. His once thrilling job had lost its luster, the daily grind now a reminder of the life he used to have, a life with his children before the divorce. As he leaned on his mop, gazing out a viewport at the star-studded void beyond, a group of passengers stumbled past, already drunk despite the early hour. "Hey, you missed a spot," one of them jeered, knocking over a potted plant. Soil spilled across the pristine floor as the group moved on, their laughter echoing down the hall. Max gritted his teeth, fighting back the urge to retort. Instead, he focused on cleaning up the mess, his movements mechanical and efficient. Hours passed in a blur of repetitive tasks until his commute buzzed. It was Jorgen, his supervisor. "Max, got a special job for you. VIP suite on deck 12 needs a deep clean. Passengers left in a hurry, made a right mess." Max suppressed a groan. "I was just about to clock out, Jorgen. Can't someone else handle it? You're the best we've got, and this needs to be done right. Get to it." The line went dead before Max could protest further. Muttering under his breath, Max gathered his supplies and headed for the elevator. The VIP suite was a stark contrast to the utilitarian crew quarters Max called home. Opulent furnishings and cutting-edge tech filled the spacious room, but it was clear a whirlwind had torn through. Clothes were strewn about, empty bottles littered every surface, and the acrid smell of some alien narcotic hung in the air. As Max set to work, a soft thump from the walk-in closet caught his attention. Frowning, he approached cautiously. "Hello, anyone in there?" No response. He opened the door and his jaw dropped. Huddled in the corner, partially hidden behind hanging garments, was a child. A little girl, no more than 5 or 6 years old, stared up at him with wide, frightened eyes. But it wasn't her presence alone that shocked him. It was her skin, a vibrant, unmistakable blue. "Holy," Max breathed, quickly softening his tone. "Hey there, sweetheart. It's okay. I won't hurt you." The girl didn't respond, only shrinking further back into the corner. Max's mind raced. What the hell was an alien child doing hidden in a passenger's closet? He needed to report this, but something held him back. The fear in those eyes stirred something protective in him, memories of his own children flooding back. "Are you hungry?" he asked gently, reaching into his pocket for the protein bar he'd been saving. He unwrapped it slowly, then held it out to the girl. "It's okay, take it." After a moment's hesitation, she snatched the bar from his hand, devouring it ravenously. Max's heart clenched. How long had she been hiding here? "Can you understand me?" He tried again. "What's your name?" The girl tilted her head, making a series of soft clicks and whistles. It was clear she didn't speak any language Max recognized. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, weighing his options. If he reported this, the girl would be taken into custody, probably poked and prodded by scientists. But if he didn't, well, he'd be risking everything. "Ah, to hell with it," Max muttered. He crouched down, meeting the girl's gaze. "Listen, I'm going to help you, okay? But you need to trust me and stay quiet." He held out his hand, and after a long moment, the girl took it. Her skin was cool to the touch, with a slightly rough texture. Max's mind whirled as he tried to formulate a plan. First things first, they needed to get out of the suite without being seen. His eyes landed on a large laundry bag. It's not ideal, but it'll have to do, he thought. He quickly emptied the bag, then turned back to the girl. "I'm going to put you in here, just for a little while. I promise I'll let you out as soon as it's safe." The girl's eyes widened in fear, but Max's gentle tone seemed to reassure her. With great care, he helped her into the bag, leaving it partially open so she could breathe easily. "Okay, here we go," he whispered, hefting the bag onto his shoulder. His heart pounded as he left the suite, praying he wouldn't run into anyone on the way to the service quarters. Luck was on his side, and he made it to a seldom-used storage room without incident. Once inside, he quickly let the girl out of the bag. "See? All safe now," Max said, trying to project calm he didn't feel. "Now, what am I going to call you?" The girl blinked at him, her head tilted in curiosity. Max's eyes fell on a discarded magazine, its cover featuring a lush garden world. "How about Bloom? You like that name?" A small smile tugged at the corners of the girl's mouth, and she nodded. "Bloom it is then," Max said, returning the smile. "Now we've got to figure out how to keep you hidden and fed. This isn't going to be easy." Over the next few days, Max fell into a nerve-wracking routine. He worked his normal shifts, then snuck food and supplies to Bloom during his breaks. The girl was a quick learner, picking up basic gestures and even a few words, though she still couldn't speak any recognizable language. But Max knew they couldn't keep this up forever. Sooner or later, someone was bound to discover Bloom. And when that happened, Max had no idea what they would do. A new ally. Max's footsteps echoed through the empty corridor as he made his way to the storage room where Bloom was hidden. It had been a week since he found her, and the weight of his secret was starting to take its toll. He reached the door and paused, listening for any sounds from within. Hearing nothing, he slowly opened the door, stepping inside. To his surprise, he found Bloom huddled in a corner, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her usually vibrant blue skin had taken on a dull, almost grayish hue. Max's heart sank. "Bloom, what's wrong?" he asked, kneeling beside her. The girl looked up at him with tear-filled eyes, her lower lip trembling. She made a series of clicks and whistles, but Max couldn't understand her. "It's okay, Bloom. I'm here," he said, his voice soft. He reached out to touch her shoulder, but she flinched away. Max felt a pang of guilt. He had tried his best to take care of her, but he was no expert in alien physiology. What if she was sick? What if she needed medical attention? Just then, the door to the storage room creaked open, and Max's heart leaped into his throat. He whirled around to see Zoe, one of the ship's stewardesses, standing in the doorway. Her eyes widened in shock as she took in the scene before her. "Max, what the hell is going on?" Zoe demanded, her voice low and tense. Max felt his stomach drop. Zoe was one of the few people on the ship he considered a friend, but he had no idea how she would react to this. "Zoe, please, let me explain," he began, standing up. Zoe's eyes darted between Max and Bloom, who had retreated further into the corner. "Is that an alien child?" she whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. Max nodded, his hands trembling. "I found her in one of the VIP suites. I couldn't just leave her there, Zoe." She was terrified. Zoe took a step closer, her gaze softening as she looked at Bloom. "Why didn't you report this? You know how much trouble you could get into, right?" Max sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, but I just couldn't bring myself to turn her over to the authorities. They'd treat her like some lab specimen. I couldn't do that to her." Zoe's expression softened further, and she let out a sigh of her own. "Max, you have a big heart, but you're in way over your head. What are you going to do if someone else finds out?" Max shook his head, feeling helpless. "I don't know. I just want to keep her safe." Zoe looked at Bloom, who was watching them with wide, fearful eyes. She knelt down, offering the girl a gentle smile. "Hey there, sweetie. My name's Zoe. It's okay, you're safe now." Bloom hesitated, but something in Zoe's voice seemed to reassure her. She slowly crawled out from the corner, her skin returning to its normal blue hue. Zoe glanced back at Max, her expression firm. "All right, Max, I'll help you, but we need to be smart about this. We can't keep her hidden forever." Max felt a wave of relief wash over him. He wasn't alone in this anymore. "Thank you, Zoe. I don't know what I would have done without you." Zoe stood up, giving him a determined look. "We're going to need a plan. First, we need to find out more about her, where she came from, what species she is, and why she was on this ship. Max nodded, feeling a spark of hope. With Zoe's help, maybe they could find a way to protect Bloom and uncover the truth behind her mysterious origins. But deep down, Max couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The truth revealed. Zoe managed to obtain a medical scanner from the ship's infirmary, a device capable of analyzing and identifying different species. Late one night, they brought the scanner to the storage room where Bloom had been staying. As the device hummed to life, Zoe directed it toward Bloom, who watched with wide, curious eyes. After a few moments, the scanner beeped, and a stream of data appeared on its screen. Zoe frowned, reading the results. This can't be right, she muttered. Max leaned over her shoulder, peering at the screen. What is it? Zoe's eyes were wide with shock. Max, this girl, she's not just any alien. She's royalty. According to the scanner, her DNA matches that of the Veldorian royal family. Max blinked in disbelief. Royalty? You mean she's a princess? Zoe nodded slowly, her mind racing. The Veldorians are one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. If she's a member of their royal family, that means someone went to a lot of trouble to hide her here. This is way bigger than we thought. Max felt a chill run down his spine. What do we do now? We can't keep her here. It's too dangerous. Zoe bit her lip, thinking quickly. We need to get her off this ship, back to her people. If the wrong person finds out who she is, it could start a galactic incident. Max nodded, his resolve hardening. Then that's what we'll do. We'll find a way to get her home. But as they began to plan, they were unaware that they were being watched. In the shadows of the storage room, a pair of eyes observed them, silently slipping away to report back to their master. A dangerous escape. Max and Zoe worked tirelessly over the next few days, preparing for their escape. They knew that the longer they stayed on the ship, the greater the risk of someone discovering Bloom's true identity. They needed to get her off the galactic dream and back to her people. Max managed to secure access to a small escape pod, one of the ship's lifeboats. It was cramped and old, but it would have to do. The pod had limited supplies and could only be piloted manually, but it was their best chance of getting Bloom to safety. Zoe, meanwhile, used her contacts among the crew to gather information on the Veldorian homeworld. She learned that the ship would be passing near a Veldorian outpost in a few days, a rare chance to rendezvous with someone who could take Bloom home. On the night of their planned escape, Max, Zoe, and Bloom quietly made their way to the escape pod bay. They moved quickly, avoiding the security patrols that roamed the ship. As they reached the pod, Max entered the access code, and the hatch hissed open. "All right, Bloom," he whispered, helping her inside. "We're almost there, just a little longer." But as he turned to help Zoe, a blaster shot rang out, narrowly missing him and scorching the wall. "Hold it right there," a voice shouted. Max and Zoe spun around to see a group of armed men blocking their path. At their head was a man Max recognized, Captain Voss, the ship's security chief. "I knew something was up when I noticed you two sneaking around," Voss sneered. "But I never imagined you'd be harboring a fugitive. Hand her over, and maybe I'll let you live." Max's heart pounded as he stepped protectively in front of Bloom. "She's just a child, Voss. Let us go, and we'll leave quietly." Voss chuckled darkly, his blaster trained on Max. "You think you can just walk away? This girl's worth a fortune in ransom. The Veldorian Empire would pay anything to get her back, and I'm not about to let that payday slip through my fingers." Zoe's eyes narrowed, and she slowly reached for a small device hidden in her pocket. "Max, get Bloom into the pod, now." Max hesitated for a split second, then turned to lift Bloom into the escape pod. But as he did, Voss's men moved to intercept him. Before they could reach him, Zoe activated the device in her hand, releasing a blinding flash of light. The men shouted in surprise, momentarily disoriented. "Go," Zoe yelled, shoving Max and Bloom into the pod. She slammed the hatch shut behind them, locking it from the outside. "Zoe, what are you doing?" Max shouted, banging on the hatch window. Zoe gave him a sad smile through the glass. "I'm buying you time. Take care of her, Max. Get her home." With that, she turned to face Voss and his men, blaster in hand. Max watched in horror as she fired at them, drawing their attention away from the pod. Inside the pod, Bloom clung to Max, her eyes wide with fear. Max's hands shook as he activated the pod's launch sequence. The small craft shuddered, then shot out of the ship's bay, hurtling into space. As the galactic dream receded into the distance, Max fought back tears. Zoe had sacrificed herself to save them, and now it was up to him to ensure her sacrifice wasn't in vain. "Hold on, Bloom," he whispered, gripping the controls tightly. "We're going to get you home." But even as they sped away, Max knew their journey was far from over. The galactic pursuit. As the escape pod hurtled through space, Max's mind raced. They were now fugitives, and it wouldn't be long before Voss sent someone after them. He had to think fast if they were going to survive. The pod's navigation system beeped, indicating that they were approaching the Veldorian outpost. Max sighed in relief, but his relief was short-lived as the pod's sensors picked up a ship on their tail, a galactic dream security vessel. "Damn it," Max cursed under his breath. "They found us." He quickly scanned the controls, searching for any way to outrun or outmaneuver their pursuers. The pod was small and fast, but it had no weapons or advanced defenses. "Hold on, Bloom," he said, gripping the controls tightly. "This might get rough." As the security vessel closed in, Max pushed the pod's engines to their limit. The small craft darted through space, weaving between asteroids and debris, but the larger ship was gaining on them. Max's heart pounded as he spotted a narrow asteroid field up ahead. It was a risky move, but it might be their only chance. "Here goes nothing," he muttered, steering the pod into the asteroid field. The pod shuddered as it dodged between the massive rocks, narrowly avoiding collisions. Behind them, the security vessel struggled to follow, its larger size making it harder to navigate the tight space. For a moment, it seemed like they might escape, but then a warning light flashed on the pod's console. The engines were overheating, and they wouldn't be able to maintain this speed for much longer. Max gritted his teeth, trying to think of a way out. Just then, Bloom tugged on his sleeve, pointing at the navigation screen. Max glanced at it and saw that they were approaching a cluster of anomalies, unstable wormholes that could send them anywhere in the galaxy. "It's too dangerous," Max said, shaking his head. "We could end up light years away from the Veldorian outpost." But Bloom's eyes were filled with determination, and she made a series of clicks and whistles, urging him to trust her. Max hesitated, then made a decision. "All right, Bloom, let's hope you're right." He steered the pod toward the nearest wormhole, just as the security vessel closed in for the kill. The pod's engines screamed in protest, but Max pushed them harder, racing toward the swirling anomaly. As they reached the wormhole's edge, the pod was suddenly enveloped in a blinding light. Max felt a strange sensation, like they were being stretched and compressed at the same time. He heard Bloom's frightened whimper and reached out to hold her hand. Then, just as quickly as it started, the sensation stopped. The pod tumbled out of the wormhole, emerging into a completely different part of space. Max blinked in confusion, trying to get his bearings. They were no longer near the Veldorian outpost, but the security vessel was gone too. "We made it," he whispered in disbelief. "We're safe, for now." He checked the pod's sensors, trying to figure out where they were. It seemed they had emerged near a small, uncharted planet. There was no sign of the Veldorians, but the planet's atmosphere was breathable, and it looked like there was a settlement of some kind. Max sighed, rubbing his tired eyes. "Looks like we're making a pit stop, Bloom. Let's hope whoever's down there is friendly." He guided the pod toward the planet, landing it in a clearing near the settlement. As they disembarked, Max took Bloom's hand, leading her toward the settlement's gates. But as they approached, Max couldn't shake the feeling that they had just stepped into another unknown, the Hidden Allies. The settlement was a small, rustic village with buildings made of stone and wood. Max noticed that the inhabitants were a mix of different species living together in harmony. They watched curiously as Max and Bloom approached, but no one seemed hostile. Max was about to ask for directions when a tall, elderly alien with dark blue skin and flowing robes stepped forward. "Welcome, travelers," the alien said in a deep, melodic voice. "We don't get many visitors here. What brings you to our humble home?" Max hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. "We're just passing through," he said carefully. "Our ship encountered some trouble, and we had to make an emergency landing." The elder nodded, his eyes narrowing slightly as he studied them. "I see. You are not the first to seek refuge here. Come, let us talk inside." Max and Bloom followed the elder into a large, circular building that appeared to be the village's meeting hall. Inside, a fire crackled in a hearth, and several other villagers were gathered, speaking in hushed tones. The elder gestured for them to sit, then took a seat across from them. "You are safe here," he said, his voice soothing. "This village is a sanctuary for those who have been wronged or are in need of protection. No one will harm you." Max relaxed slightly, though he remained cautious. "Thank you," he said, "but we're not just looking for safety. We need to get Bloom back to her people. She's important." The elder raised an eyebrow, glancing at Bloom. "I can see that. The child carries a great burden, one that has brought her to our doorstep." Max nodded. "She's being hunted. We need to find a way to contact the Veldorian Empire and get her home." The elder stroked his chin thoughtfully. "The Veldorians are a proud and powerful people, but their reach does not extend to this remote part of the galaxy. However, there are those here who may be able to help." He motioned to one of the villagers, who left the hall and returned a few moments later with a middle-aged woman dressed in simple yet elegant clothing. She had striking silver hair and piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through Max. "This is Lyra," the elder introduced her. "She is a former diplomat with ties to many factions across the galaxy. If anyone can help you, it is her." Lyra smiled warmly, but there was a sharpness to her gaze. "I hear you are in need of assistance. Getting a message to the Veldorians won't be easy, but it's not impossible. The question is, what are you willing to offer in return?" Max hesitated, glancing at Bloom, who was sitting quietly beside him. "We don't have much to offer, but if you can help us, we'll do whatever we can to repay you." Lyra's smile widened. "Good answer. I have a ship that can take you to a relay station on the edge of Veldorian space. From there, you can send a message to the royal family. But the journey will be dangerous. The people hunting you won't give up easily." Max's heart sank. He had hoped their troubles were behind them, but it seemed they were only just beginning. Still, he had come too far to turn back now. "We'll do it," he said firmly. "Just tell us what we need to do." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "Prepare yourselves. We leave at first light. And remember, trust no one but each other. The galaxy is a treacherous place, and allies can quickly become enemies." Max glanced at Bloom, who met his gaze with wide, trusting eyes. He knew that no matter what dangers lay ahead, he would protect her with his life. As they left the meeting hall, Max couldn't shake the feeling that they had just made a pact with forces beyond their control, but he had no choice. Bloom's safety was all that mattered now. The final confrontation. The next morning, Max, Bloom, and Lyra set out for the relay station. The journey took them across the rugged terrain of the planet, through dense forests and over jagged mountains. Despite the challenges, Max was determined to keep going, driven by the need to get Bloom to safety. Lyra led the way, her sharp eyes constantly scanning the horizon for any signs of trouble. Max noticed that she moved with the grace and confidence of someone who had spent a lifetime navigating the dangers of the galaxy. As they neared the relay station, Lyra suddenly stopped, holding up a hand. "Wait," she said quietly. "Something's not right." Max tensed, looking around. What do you mean? Lara pointed to a ridge overlooking the station. There, in the shadows, we're being watched. Max squinted, trying to see what she was pointing at. Sure enough, he could just make out the silhouette of a figure hidden among the rocks. Whoever it is, they're waiting for us, Lyra said grimly. We need to be careful. This could be a trap. Max felt a knot of fear in his stomach, but he forced himself to stay calm. What do we do? Lyra thought for a moment, then nodded toward a narrow path that led around the ridge. We'll take the long way around. It might be safer, but we'll need to move quickly. They set off again, moving as quietly as possible. Max kept Bloom close, his heart pounding with every step. He knew that the enemies were closing in, and he had to be ready for anything. As they rounded the ridge, they suddenly heard a shout. There they are, get them. Max turned to see a group of armed men rushing toward them, led by none other than Captain Voss. Run! Lara shouted, pulling out a blaster and firing at the approaching men. Max grabbed Bloom's hand and sprinted down the path, his heart racing. They dodged blaster fire as they ran, the shots whizzing past them. Max's lungs burned, but he didn't dare slow down. They had to reach the relay station. Just as they reached the entrance, Max felt a sharp pain in his side. He gasped, stumbling forward. Bloom cried out in fear, trying to support him as he fell to his knees. No, Max groaned, clutching his side. Blood seeped through his fingers, and he realized he had been hit. But before he could collapse, Lyra appeared beside him, pulling him to his feet. Come on, we're almost there. Max gritted his teeth, forcing himself to keep moving. They stumbled into the relay station, slamming the door shut behind them. Bloom, the message. Max panted, leaning against the wall. Lyra quickly activated the station's communication console, inputting a series of codes. It's done, she said, sending the message to the Veldorian Empire. Now we just have to hold out until they arrive. Outside, Voss and his men pounded on the door, trying to break it down. Max knew they couldn't hold out much longer. Lyra, take Bloom and go, he said weakly, his vision starting to blur. I'll hold them off. Lyra shook her head fiercely. I'm not leaving you, Max. We'll face this together. Just then, there was a loud rumble and the ground shook. Max looked out the window and saw a Veldorian warship descending from the sky, its weapons trained on Voss's men. They're here, Lyra whispered in relief. We're saved. The warship fired a warning shot, and Voss's men quickly retreated, realizing they were outmatched. A squad of Veldorian soldiers disembarked, rushing to the station to secure the area. Max felt himself being lifted by strong arms, and he looked up to see a Veldorian officer with regal features and piercing blue eyes. You are safe now, the officer said in a calm, authoritative voice. We will take you and the child to the royal palace. As they were escorted onto the warship, Max held Bloom close, feeling a wave of exhaustion wash over him. But he also felt a deep sense of relief. They had made it. Bloom was safe. The journey to the Veldorian capital was a blur for Max, who drifted in and out of consciousness due to his injury. When he finally awoke, he found himself in a luxurious chamber, with Bloom sitting beside him, holding his hand. You're awake, she said softly, her eyes filled with concern. Max smiled weakly. We did it, Bloom. You're home. A figure entered the room, and Max recognized the Veldorian officer who had saved them. You have done a great service to our people, the officer said, bowing slightly. The princess is safe thanks to you. Max blinked in surprise. Princess? The officer nodded. Yes, Bloom is the rightful heir to the Veldorian throne. We have been searching for her ever since she was taken from us. You have our eternal gratitude. Max felt a surge of pride, despite his exhaustion. He had protected Bloom and brought her home. His mission was complete. As he lay back on the soft bed, Max allowed himself to finally relax. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of treachery and deceit, but he had found allies in the most unexpected places. And in Bloom's eyes, he saw a future of hope and peace.